turn mic's on. All right, good evening. Today is November 10th, 2025. This is the Genoa Township Zoning Commission. It is 7 p.m. We're in the Genoa Township Hall. Agenda items this evening, zoning case 2025-02, Campfire Brewing with first meeting. Staff present this evening, Joe Schaefer, Director of Development and Zoning, Paul Benson, the Deputy Zoning Inspector. Roll, Mr. Schaefer.
Roll call, Mr. Bernard.
Present.
Mr. Graver.
Present.
Mr. James.
Present.
Mr. Teichman.
Present.
Mr. Leff.
Here.
And Mr. Adler is here. Ms. Van Hal did inform us that she would not be available this evening.
Okay. Statement of policy. This meeting may be recorded. Such recordings are public record and may be posted online and could be subject to review in court. As is the adopted policy of the Zoning Commission, all applicants will be granted an opportunity to make their formal presentation. The audience may be then granted an opportunity to comment, followed by the applicant's response and questions from the commission. The chairperson may limit repetitive debate and reserves the following rights: to limit comment to items on the agenda, to limit public comment to 5 minutes per person, to restrict the number of times a member of public is permitted to speak, and to enact any other as reasonable ad hoc protocols or measures necessary to maintain a fair, safe, and orderly meeting. This policy was adopted by the commission to provide for the respectful, constructive, and efficient discussion of business scheduled for consideration and to allow for proper due process as required by law. First item up, minutes from the last meeting. Any comments first? Motion?
I move to approve the October 15, 2025 meeting minutes as presented.
Second. Discussion? Roll?
Roll call, Mr. Bernard. Yes. Mr. Graver.
Yes.
Mr. James.
Aye.
Mr. Teichman.
Yes.
Mr. Leff.
Yes. Adopted minutes. The time is now 7:01. If I butcher it, I'm sorry. Germain? Is it Germain?
That's the German Holdings.
Germain?
I'm Dan Haskins.
Got it. Germain Holdings LLC via Dan Haskins et al. Requesting approval of a final development plan amendment to revise the exterior site and parking layout of Campfire Brewing located on approximately 1.17 acres at 6300 Frost Road, Westerville, Ohio 43082, PIN number 3173420100200000. Currently zoned planned industrial district, PID, also known as zoning case number 2025-02. Let's swear you in, so rise and be sworn in. Any members of the public? No. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Be seated. The legal notice for this meeting was printed and published on October 25th, 2025 in the Delaware Gazette and posted at the Genoa Township Hall on October 25th, 2025. An attempt to mail notice of this hearing to property owners within 500 feet of the subject property was also made. The following were marked as exhibits A through G. A, the legal notice. B, the affidavit of advertisement. C, the sign-in sheet. D, the application and plans received October 8, 2025. E, the staff technical review dated November 3rd, 2025 for November 10 meeting. Exhibit F, staff memo dated November 3rd, 2025 for November 10th meeting. And Exhibit G, all public comments received between October 8th, 2025 and November 10, 2025. Mr. Schaefer, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as noted, this is the development plan amendment for Campfire Brewing on Frost Road. Just the brief history, most of you, I think, were here, most but not all, were here the last time this came through. So this site has been a couple of businesses for years. It was Ohio Mulch. For a brief time, it was a body shop. And now Campfire moved in. After Campfire moved in, their use was approved, but they wanted to do some modifications to the site, hence the application that they made back in 2024 to amend the development plan that had previously been approved under Ohio Mulch to allow for the layout that they were seeking to do. So as you can see, that was approved on May 13th of 2024 under ZC case number 2024-02. And I refrained from putting the entire history of this site in the memo because we captured all of that in the 24 application. The zoning permit was issued for the work, or for the site in June for all the improvements, that were approved as part of the zoning case. It took a little while for us to, we were monitoring the site. It took a while for the gate to get removed, so we didn't get out and do like a final compliance inspection until this past summer, late July. And at that time, we noticed some of the rear areas were being utilized in a manner differently than what we had seen on the plans. So that's when I contacted Mr. Haskins and his team. I asked them to have a meeting. Dan came in. We had a good meeting. He sort of laid out what they've done, why they've done it. And once looking at it, I said, okay, well, I think you need to come in for a development plan amendment so we can get this on the books since it didn't match. And obviously, there's some implications here to primarily to the parking, which is really the main issue in terms of the impacts of the changes that they've made to the site. The other things are, some of the other things they've changed, candidly, probably would not have triggered them needing to come back in front of you. It either would have been like, okay, or at least an administrative approval, but the impact on parking, I felt like was sufficient enough to bring this application back in front of the commission for review. I think we're all familiar with the nature of the surroundings of the site, Frost Road, industrial district, it's all industrial users of one sort or another, basically on every side of them and across the street, so there's no immediate residential development or neighborhood impacts, and a little further south is obviously Northgate and the commercial development down there. So I'm just gonna quickly try to go through all the proposed revisions, which I saw on the drawing. Some of these have already been implemented, so again, it's sort of asking for, permission after the fact. But we still should go through all of them. So we have 7 additional on-site parking spaces, increasing the on-site total from 37 to 44. A parking agreement with Shamrock Towing for up to 25 off-site parking spaces. Image of such has been provided. We have a second designated food truck location being proposed. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard the news about Antonio's looking to operate on the site. Reduction in the size of the seating area, which is sort of that blue highlighted area on the image there. 8 additional 4-person tables, 6 near the food truck area and 2 closer to the concrete block walls south of the yard game area. We have a designated tent area consisting of approximately 6 tents, 1 less fire pit, it would appear, and the 4 associated chairs that had gone with it. Relocation of the dumpsters to the southeast corner of the site, and planter and string light layout changes, which are obviously not terribly significant, but worth noting. Seating and a parking breakdown, again, it basically comes down to the seating in that outdoor area and how that's impacting the parking calculations. So indoor seating, there's no change. Both the approved and proposed plans state 60. Outdoor seating, they're increasing from 36 to 92. That's an increase of 56. And again, total site seating is going up 56 from 96 to 152. So obviously, if you add lines 1 and 2 together, you get line 3. Required on-site Required on-site parking ratio is unchanged since the last plan in terms of the zoning requirements, 1 space per every 3 persons of capacity plus 1 space per worker. The approved plan had 35 on-site parking spaces required, 37, as I already noted, were provided, and then you can see how the math works out there. The proposed plan is 54 on-site parking spaces required. Only 44 of them are now provided on-site, obviously the 10 short, but that 10 and then some are being counted for up to 25 off-site via the Shamrock agreement I noted. So on-site, there are 10 short, but if you add the on-site plus the off-site together, they're actually 15 over. No changes to access, stormwater management signage, green space landscaping, or the existing building are proposed, though not directly referenced in the materials. Again, I noted Antonio's, formerly of Sunbury Road, would be one of the potential food trucks operating on the site. In terms of divergences, as submitted, there are no new divergences, but as we go through the rest of this review, you're going to see we may end up having to discuss one. There are obviously previous divergence granted for this site. The case in 24 had a divergence that basically allowed for all the outdoor activity. And then there was the prior zoning case under Ohio Mulch had divergences allowing the parking lot to be set back only 8 feet from Frost Road, reduction in the number of required parking spaces from 31 to 16. However, that was based on the user at the time and the fact that whole back area was basically just storage and not being utilized for obviously this activity. There was a divergence for the reduction of the front yard building setback to 47 feet as the building had already existed when the original final development plan was filed, and allowing a 90-foot in diameter loading area, which obviously isn't terribly significant anymore, considering that was for Ohio Mulch and this is a different use. So moving on to the staff comments. You've got my technical review, but basically everything in the memo reflects what's in the technical review, because there's really one outstanding issue. And then it's because, as I've sort of alluded to, the zoning resolution does not explicitly recognize shared parking agreements as a valid code-compliant solution to the number of required parking spaces for development. That said, the resolution also does not explicitly stipulate that the required parking be provided on site or on site only. You can make an argument that I think that the code it's somewhat inherent or implied in the code that those spaces are assumed, at least by the code, that those spaces were going to be on site. Given the gray nature of the situation, however, if the applicant's proposal is acceptable to the township, I would recommend it be authorized by way of a divergence request to be safe and to provide for a clear record on the matter. In staff's opinion, the previously granted divergence, as I noted, is probably no longer applicable because the justification was based on a user and a layout that no longer exists. I should note that the application is currently not clear as to how the parking would be handled should the Shamrock or Campfire Brewing opt out of the arrangement that they currently have. If the current proposed parking arrangement is not supported, the plan or site would need to be revised so that the occupancy can accommodate the number of on-site parking spaces, which is 44, again, unless some sort of divergence would be granted differently. The divergence would need to be clear that it is for a reduced number of parking spaces on-site regardless of the off-site agreement. Per the recommendation of the Township Fire Marshal, the applicant was advised by staff to reach out to the County Department of Building Safety due to their proposed changes to the exterior area occupancy load. The business current authorized occupancy load for the outdoor area only, we're talking about, is 51. Though not a zoning requirement, the new calculation ideally would be completed and authorized by the county to maintain compliance. If the county will not approve the newly proposed load, the plan probably needs to be revised to reflect what the county would approve of. And staff does not believe a revision to the divergence of 130601 is necessary, as nothing in this proposal fundamentally changes what we've already approved. And that's, again, the divergence related to the fact that they're doing things outside. While they're changing the layout of how things look outside, the fact is the business is operating outside. The prior divergence basically said, yes, they can do that. Given the somewhat unique nature of the use, including location of pedestrian bicyclist activity and the fact that business owners have not operated a business like this before, it's not surprising that the additional adjustments to the approved development plan would be needed after the business opened to reflect operational realities and unknowns, especially given the apparent popularity and success of the business. Staff is not terribly concerned about the relocation of the dumpster, as it appears to be a location that works for the service provider. Furthermore, pickup times can be controlled and would seem likely that the dumpster is being emptied in the morning or during the day before the business closes. Or during the day before the business opens, I should say, when the parking lot is likely empty, rendering the concerns about accessibility moot. There were some inquiries both by the applicant in the past, and one or two people I've just had discussions with in meetings that come up the last several months about sidewalks or streetlights down to this site, because I guess it's become somewhat of a popular location to walk and bike to for a lot of people, which I can sort of imagine, because you've already got a lot of pedestrian traffic going down the Genoa Trail, especially from Highland Lakes, crossing the street, going to UDF, so this isn't that much further than UDF, so it stands to reason people are doing that. So the streetlights are difficult for the reasons I've sort of spoken to. There's two different ways under Ohio law townships can install them. Under one way, the township has to own, maintain, pay for them completely. There's another way where they can be installed, but then they'd have to be assessed to the adjacent property owners, and then you have to get all the property owner buy-in. Sidewalks would function sort of the same way. The law isn't quite as specific about townships and sidewalk installation, but generally the township usually either can put it in, build it, and maintain it, like we've done in some strategic locations. Or what we've told people who want like missing sidewalk connections in their neighborhood is, well, get all your neighbors to sign that they're willing to be assessed to split the cost of the construction, and we'll do it. You can imagine how many times that ends up usually happening. So I do know, I think Paul Benson had a conversation with one of the neighboring property owners. I don't know if it was relative to this or not, but they didn't seem terribly interested in being assessed for that, and that's usually the trick, is trying to get the buy-in from all the affected parties to construct something like that. And the township has limited funds, so for us to go out there and proactively build that segment of sidewalk in a primarily industrial area, even the administrator today, he just doesn't see it as being something the township's gonna be doing right now. So that concludes the memo. Like I said, the technical review basically states the same thing in a more abbreviated version. Really the only code issue to talk about is the parking situation. So I don't wanna beat a dead horse on that topic. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Dan,
Sir.
floor is yours.
Joe was pretty comprehensive in explaining everything that happened. And really, you know, we made our best effort at what we expected the place to be like in, you know, about a year ago. This, you know, current configuration is much more reflective of what kind of our clientele or our clients have kind of dictated. You know, it kind of necessitated having more parking because we were seeing more people show up. You know, initially, we were opening in January too. We didn't really expect the kind of demand that we had. So we had to kind of react, and we took away, area in the blue from what we had originally thought was going to be more of the beer garden area, and ended up sacrificing it to the parking to accommodate those additional, people that wanted to join us. And then obviously that wasn't enough, and you saw us, we didn't know we would have to go and get additional parking at the time. So thankfully we were able to partner with Shamrock Towing, who's been great about everything. You know, we generally operate at different times, so they haven't had any complaints. And yeah, it's really worked out pretty well for us so far. I think that's about it. Anything else we address?
I just forgot to note during my presentation, I didn't have it written down, but to the best of my knowledge, I don't think we've gotten any calls or complaints about the situation, the parking, the business, the operations, or anything of that nature, other than people wishing they just had the sidewalk and the streetlights I talked about. But, so again, this only came up because we did the compliance inspection, so this wasn't complaint-driven or anything like that. We were the ones who were out there and, noticed that the difference existed. So I just didn't want you to think that this was a result of complaints or problems that we're necessarily having other than just when we did the compliance inspection.
Okay. Anything else?
Good, that's it.
Public comment? None? All right, who wants to go first?
Sure. I had a question, there was talk about Antonio's Pizza being there. Is that gonna be, is this food truck gonna be there temporarily or all the time? How does that work?
It's going to be a food truck that is trailers, I'm sorry, both of those
Yeah.
locations there, it will be trailers. So
So both will be for Antonio's?
it would be, yes, it would be dedicated to Antonio's.
Okay,
Both the locations, the reason for both is the smaller one is actually going to be like a prep
yeah,
truck because it's smaller. You're going to do all the dough and everything in there.
Okay,
and,
okay.
Sauce and whatnot. And so then the actual cooking will be done in the one that's already the larger area and what normally our food trucks are sitting in right now.
and how many people will he have there? Because I mean, you note on your parking space thing that there will be 3 workers for the whole site. So 3 parking spots. I mean, if I can imagine he has at least 2 people there.
The food truck operationally is still the same as what we originally had. So
Yeah, no, but I mean, if it stays there, he needs to
Yeah.
come with a car. That's my point.
They're gonna be, we could consider them workers, right?
yeah, okay.
And doesn't matter.
Yeah, that
Have
would
they
be
given you
probably
any
the
inclination
additional.
on how many people they would have then?
Because I was just not aware. I thought it was going to be integrated in the building. That was just what I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But if it's is that in our code? Can a food truck be all the time at one location? I always thought it was not allowed, but
So restaurants can be, so that's why, if Antonio's had been in the building, and that's sort of what I
Yeah.
originally thought too, when I had heard the news, was that they were maybe gonna move in the building. And usually when these types of uses set up shop, we assume they're eventually gonna serve food of some sort. So I've always assumed that this was sort of gonna function as a restaurant in some way or form. The code is sort of not terribly specific on food trucks. That's one of the things we're trying to work to address in the amendment. But the current code really doesn't contain the term, because they just, from a regulatory standpoint, they're new. I know they've been probably a dozen years or more that they've been sort of on the main scene. But, regulations move slow, and they hadn't been very prevalent in the township until probably more recently. So I feel like they've already got the divergence to do the outside operations. As part of that divergence, we already authorized the food truck operation. I'm not sure we really specified how long they were gonna operate, just like we don't specify the brewery's operations. They have a certain number of hours, but there's nothing to say they couldn't open longer if they had wanted to. So I guess the the short answer is no, I don't believe there's anything explicitly preventing the food trucks from operating.
And they're just gonna have people in the trucks, they're not gonna have wait staff or servers or anything like that?
No,
They're
yeah,
not
it'll
doing
be,
table service, they're
it's,
just,
yeah, it's gonna be all digital, so, you know, you place your order and then you'll be texted, so it's not a running staff type of thing.
Okay. Do they use your prep kitchen or something to do dishes and stuff?
No, it'll be all housed inside the trucks, and everything will be disposable, cutlery,
Okay,
so we're not gonna have
yeah,
any dishes to be done.
yeah. Just, I mean, you state your operational hours somewhere in the document. Are they operating on different hours, or it's totally at the same?
It hasn't yet been determined.
Okay.
That is something we are still going through with Rita from Antonia's to, do we want to match what she originally had with hers at her place? And yeah, obviously, that's going to definitely be something we have to consider as we go forward, but it has not yet been set.
I think they closed a little earlier than you wanted.
Yeah,
But
probably.
they also open rather late, like
Yeah,
at 4.
exactly.
They open at 4, so if they open at 4, you want pizza maybe at noon, you know?
Yeah, I believe they did do lunch hour from like 12 to 2, and then they
Yeah.
closed until 4, which we're considering doing that as well, so.
Prior to your agreement with Antonio's, how many food trucks did you have on site then?
One, I don't believe we ever had more than one. Just in that same location.
Same location, and it would come and go, or
Yep.
was it parked?
No, there was never a permanent one that was parked or anything. It was always a day of type thing, and then they leave.
Will the food truck have an electric hookup through you guys, or will it always have been running a generator?
It will have an electric hookup.
Okay.
That we're gonna,
Probably good.
You had that before, that was on the outside of the.
yes,
cell
there is an
Oh,
outlet
yeah,
there,
okay.
yeah.
That's good, because otherwise of it.
Yeah, that was part of last year.
Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, something also related to Antonio's. So obviously you already have a sign. Is the sign kind of include Antonio's? Because I didn't see that anywhere.
Yeah, that's also something that we need to finalize as well, so that'll definitely be something we have to come back to you about.
Oh, yeah, so, are you talking about just replacing the panel or the entire sign
I think
structure?
he's pointing out that we have a big campfire sign in the front.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's probably in the
yeah, I
original
recall.
package too. And yeah, obviously it just says Campfire Brewing. And again, it's another one of those things we have to iron out with Rita to find out if she wants it with Antonio's or featuring Antonio's, Campfire and Antonio's. So that's something we're still working through as well, so.
Yeah, so we don't regulate the copy on it, so, if it's within the same dimensional structure or standard, if the sign structure isn't changing, the dimensions of the sign isn't changing, you're really just swapping out a panel or taking down a board and putting up a new board with different content on it. That's not gonna be an issue for us. You don't even really need to talk to us about that. If it's just a like-for-like replacement. Where we would need to talk is if the sign structure's changing, or, the panel, you wanna get wider or taller. I'm not saying you necessarily can't do it. I'd have to dive back into the Ohio Mulch development text to see what they had for signage. My guess it was very minimal, and basically said, this is what our sign's gonna look like. And then if you do something that goes beyond the scope of the development plan or the zoning resolution, then we'd probably have to bring you back in front of this group. But if we can keep you within the bounds of the plan or the resolution, then no.
Yeah, we don't have any intention to change the size of that sign, so it's that sign. If we just take out the trees that block it, that'd be great.
So you mentioned that there's a lot of people biking there. Like, how many are we talking about?
Obviously, it's very weather
Well, yeah.
dependent. But we do have 2 bike racks, and I don't think we've ever filled up the entire.
And where are the bike racks that you have? Like, where are they?
They're
on the
against the
plan?
building right now, against the back edge of the building. I guess it's not listed on there, is it? Yeah, by the garage door, so people can see their bikes, yeah.
All right, but how would you gain access then if you're putting food trucks in the way of that door?
The bike racks?
It's by the existing garage door, right? But
Yeah.
by the existing cell tower?
Yep.
So if I'm reading your diagram right, you're putting the food trucks with an alley between the two? So the people are passing between the 2 food trucks, the prep truck and the service truck?
Yes, that will be kind of the main entrance in between the 2 of them, which is about 14 feet, 14 and a half feet?
Yeah, 14.6, yeah.
Yep. 14, it's.
Yeah, 14 and a half by 21.
Yeah, 14.6 is to the
First.
that's not between the two, the way this is drawn.
So,
It's about midway in that space.
Well, what they did is they extended it to the right, 21 foot.
Yeah, the
It's,
21-foot dimension's kind of throwing you off there.
yeah.
Oh, that's what that is.
So the
Sorry,
trailer's
contacts
8
are
foot
in, I
6,
can't-
8 foot and a
Yep.
half.
It's pretty much the same size as a parking stall.
Yeah.
So the cables of that a food truck hooks into, because you said it's on the cell tower, like where does that cable go? I mean,
Cell
is it-
tower
is it
cable?
trip hazard or like how does it, yeah, like,
He's asking about the cable to the
Oh,
second
to
food
the,
truck.
to the second, the prep food
If
truck?
it's gonna go
Yeah.
across that opening.
Yeah, so it's not gonna need to be operational while we are, it's more like a morning prep kitchen, and, you know, it's short answer, I don't know yet. I don't know if that one
Yeah.
needs to be hooked up all the time, if it's gonna have
for me,
refrigeration.
I just think it might be,
Yes.
like, I don't, it's not per se for us, but I
Okay.
know that,
Yeah,
like, it's gonna be a trip hazard.
yeah,
The
absolutely.
liability, right.
Yeah, and we would cover that up with, you know, like the temporary ramp type things over top,
Mhm.
you see, like concerts and stuff.
I'm sure the liability insurance will want to see that.
Yeah.
Bright yellow.
I have a few questions, Sebastian, while you're gathering more of your thoughts. What's the magic number here? We're increasing almost threefold, maybe 2.5, threefold amount of seating outside. Am I correct in reading that from 36 to 92? Correct? So what happens in a year when it's like, oh, we need 8 more tables? So how was that number derived? Did you just buy some and trial and errors worked fairly well?
Yes, the tables that are out there currently,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, honestly, we put them out there. To be honest, we bought them when they were super cheap.
Yep.
And we figured at Home Depot at the end of the season last year, and we're like, well, maybe we'll need these, so we put them up, and pretty much the people just filled them out as they wanted.
So what I'm having a math problem, and I think it might be a me problem, but I want to make sure we're working on this together here. In the staff memo, I see D5 says 8 additional 4-person tables. So that to me is 32 additional seating spots. We are taking out 1 fire pit, so that is down to 28. It says and associated 4 chairs. We have 28 additional seating opportunities. That's all this amount of seating that's listed here is adding, but we're actually increasing the number by 56 occupants. So can you explain the tent area? Are there seats in the tent area? What exactly is the tent?
Still, the same picnic tables that are seated underneath those tents.
Mhm.
They're 10 by, the
Yeah,
tents are
the-
10 by 20. Yeah, those.
Yeah.
You
So those.
You have 2 right now, right?
Yeah, there's 2, yeah. against
2,
the
but you're going to have more. So
No, that reflects what we have right now.
that's, okay.
So what was approved, in other words, in the original, I'm trying to get that delta out here. Because
Yeah,
I'm
it's-
hoping there's just a math problem and that solves our parking problem. If we had
Yeah, Paul's
outdoor
still
seating at 36.
That's the old plan.
Yeah.
Right,
This is
right,
the old-
outdoor seating at 36, yep. So if you scroll down there, Paul, thank you. So you had 8 4-person tables, which is 32, right? And then you have the fire pits.
Another 12.
So that's already 44, so it's not even 36, it's 44. So the tents, those tents with those big tables that are on the new plan, those tables are not accounted for here?
Correct.
Okay.
And
how
I didn't
many-
account for them in my math either, because I didn't realize those were tables under there.
Gotcha. So how many seats did you guys calculate per those tables? If we have
Those tables would be the same, they're the same ones that are listed as the 4-person tables, so.
The same table?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have 6 more 4-person tables, which is 24. So I got 24 plus 28. It's putting us at 52, not 56. So I'm wondering if.
There's some in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was counted in your calculation.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm hoping that helps the problem a little bit. I think what it was is that we removed one of those fire pits from the
Yep,
old plan.
That's what it was.
And there are 4.
Yep.
So on this plan, Paul, where the calculations are at the top, I think it's 52 additional. or I guess that's the staff count, staff memo, so maybe should be 88.
That's correct, I have that too.
Does that
Yeah,
math
that
check
sounds
out?
right. Actually, I was just thinking about that as I was presenting even. I was like, oh, I don't think I took the 4 away from the fire
Right.
pit.
No, that's one less parking spot, so that doesn't totally solve the problem. And in fact, that's probably gonna be made up by the additional staff for Antonio, so probably around the same amount of parking spaces that are required. So my next question, these areas, the empty bays back here, have you guys evaluated if any parking spaces can fit back there?
It doesn't functionally work, so we can't advertise or show that they're a
They can't
space.
get out?
Right, because if the other ones are all filled up,
Yep.
now, unfortunately, we have seen people that will pull into those, but then they're kind of stuck until the people move on the end spaces that are actually striped.
Right.
So yeah, we don't advise people, we actually, right now, we have a tent that we're potentially putting up there for storage of, wood that we use at our fire pits. So it won't be used for parking by anybody. And the old fences back, or gates back there too right now. So it's not used for parking.
So the way I see it, we either need 30 less picnic table seats to get us to the required amount of parking you're providing, or we need to request a divergence, or do some sort of notification about the shared deal with Shamrock. So Joe, have we ever done that in the past?
With the shared parking?
Granted any, I think
Not that I can recall.
Bright Path, I think, considered it as overflow, but I think Bright Path met the minimum requirements.
Yeah, I remember those discussions. I think that was with
There was
Tom
a memo
Bernardo.
with that, right?
Gianmarco's, yeah.
There was a memo with Gianmarco's.
There was a memo, but I think it still met the minimum required, yeah.
And that seems to have functioned out there. I don't get any complaints about that either. I'm not there at drop-off, but.
Is there anything to the fact of like the mix of how many people are per vehicle based on the usage of what we've seen because of the nature of our place being very family-oriented? We have like number of people is number of people, which includes kids, right? I mean, those are still numbers, so, I mean, realistically, it's probably a higher ratio of carpooling than what is kind of spelled out for the traditional restaurant model. So there's just something to consider as a potential, variance or divergence, or however you want to say from the code. But that would obviously be something that would need to be evaluated.
So, I mean, we did talk about this idea when we were doing the code amendment discussion. We had a significant discussion about this particular section, I think. So we have floated the idea out there that we'd be willing to entertain that, because the idea is obviously, we want shared parking as much as possible because it reduces the amount of just asphalt and stormwater runoff and all that stuff that you're gonna have. So, as long as you don't have an overflow issue in terms of parking. So, I'm not necessarily anti-shared parking. I don't think the code right now 100% accounts for it. And given the situation, especially sort of the uniqueness of this operation, the off-site parking is very close, but not immediately next door. And in a lot of those shared parking situations, they're like businesses of opposite operations, like where you have a restaurant next to like a dentist office. Well, the dentist is closed by 5 and they're never there on the weekends, hence why they'll do the shared parking agreement. So they never really have a conflict. Again, you've got almost 2 very unique uses, and one's a brewery with all this outdoor stuff going on, and then Shamrock, which they have a lot of on-site parking, but it's not actually people generally that are parking.
And it's gravel too, though.
Correct. So it's just a whole sort of mix of unique situation. And then, this isn't a main road, we're on sort of a back industrial road. So there's just a lot of unique factors here going on.
Well, my concerns are that it is a back industrial road and it's not well lit, and there's not sidewalks. So in the hours of operation or after dark, crossing the road, no written shared parking, no hold harmless agreements, shared liability. What would our exposure be from the township by approving the divergence for something like this and somebody gets injured?
That'd be a legal question I'd have to run by the prosecutor's office, which I can do.
One way One way to do this is just grant the divergence and just say 44 parking spaces is all that's required. And we'll grant you that divergence out of the code and ignore the Shamrock agreement.
That is, yes, that is an option.
I think you have to ignore the agreement because I don't think it's a binding. You can't attach it to a zoning codification. I don't think you can literally attach it since it's a different ownership. You don't own the property either, right?
Correct.
Okay, so you got 3 different people, then you have a tenant that's going to be part of this as well, so you've got all kinds of different things going on. And I think from a liability standpoint, that's gonna be up to you guys to handle that. I mean, Shamrock is a completely different animal as far as how it is operational, but I used to do these kind of shared things, but in the city of Columbus, and it was just something that you worked out on the side, and you still went through and got your zoning variance, right? So I think those are the things that we have to do takeaways from and look at that. My question is on the pizza place. As, you know, I'm reading here and it says that Antonio's finds a new home inside the brewery. So is this eventually going to morph into something else that you're gonna come back in another 6 or 8 months and say,
No.
we got a restaurant now?
No, not 6 to 8 months, maybe 6 to 8 years.
Okay.
No, this is the foreseeable future type plans, yeah, I mean,
And the only reason I say that is, while we're doing this, you know, if there's the opportunity, and, you know, we liked Antonio's, and if it's an opportunity that this is something, is that, you know, do we look at that as a, you know, something that they deal with now instead of coming back? You know, I don't know. You read all these different things. It's gonna be inside. It's not a food truck. It's gonna be a restaurant. You're gonna have different kind of traffic. Your hours of business will change if they're inside because they operate a little bit differently. So there's a lot of moving parts. So it's more of, you know, what do we know? Is there something we can do to help?
Yeah, the Antonios, even if they were to, say, expand or move inside and establish more of a permanent restaurant type of structure, I don't think there'd be any zoning implications necessarily from that unless they wanted to, again, revise the exterior layout, add more tables, do
Well,
something
and
else
that's it, you know.
out there. But
you're
if they're
gonna
just
be-
operating a restaurant out of the building, like I said, since they're already serving drinks out of there, from a zoning perspective, it's more or less the same general type of operation. And then that sort of just puts it on the property owner at that point of, if you put a bunch of legal uses in this building, but you don't have enough parking, that's gonna be a sort of a you problem.
Right,
And
but
and
that's what I'm
usually,
saying, is there something that we could say, okay?
yeah, yeah.
that's-
Is that usually a you problem, or do we get calls about not enough parking spaces at businesses?
I can't tell you the last time I got a call. I know when like Kroger did all that stuff, you know, put the outbuilding out and then built out and expanded. There was some concerns about the number of parking spaces. I don't, it's busy, it'll be busy there the next couple of weeks and you'll have to park a lot further out than probably you were used to. And that's sort of what we told people. That was my expectation when Kroger did that was that lot may be at capacity on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving.
Right.
But other than that, you're probably just gonna have to park and walk a little further than you normally were used to at Kroger, which is by and large been the case. I have to sometimes park a little bit further down towards Jersey Mike sometimes, or, you know, further back towards New China or sometimes. But no, I can't say I can think of a single business where anyone's complained about the lack of parking. I think maybe Yabo's gets a little tight sometimes, but, I mean, it only hurts their business.
Right.
It's not necessarily, you know, I don't see people parking on Northgate and on Route 3 or all over the place. You know, that's fundamentally what parking regulations are about, really, is making sure you don't create an environment where people are gonna start parking in an unsafe manner in a hazardous way. I don't see that in Genoa Township.
Well, and this area is going through some change. I mean, like you said, it's not lit, there's no sidewalks. If the pizza place takes off, you're gonna have more carryout, you're gonna have more, cars are gonna be stopping. Are they gonna park, you know, how's that all gonna?
Yep.
I mean, maybe not 6 or 8 months, but maybe a few years, those problems are going to.
Yeah, and we may see those. And I can't remember if Frost Road has any no parking signs posted or not.
Only in front of the first response place, the ambulance place.
That makes sense. Technically speaking, if there's no, I'm not the police department, but I would think if there's not any no parking sign in the vicinity on a public road, you can park on it unless the fire marshal comes by and says, you
Right,
can't
there
get a
might
fire
be
truck down here,
movability in
you
there.
gotta move it.
There's some pretty big trucks going down that road.
Yeah, there are.
I don't think they're gonna.
I wouldn't park on Frost Road for that exact reason. But,
Our neighbor with the diesel fleet, I don't think you wanna go there.
Well, speaking of that, I guess that leads me to, it's a great point there. Let's speak objectively here for a minute. How long have you been operating with that arrangement?
Well, since it's got nice weather,
What are your busiest days?
weekends,
Saturdays and Sunday? What time?
Friday, Saturday. Usually evening, late afternoon, evenings. Well, I guess, so Friday, you know, you get some of the happy hour, but then it leads into the evenings. Saturday, it can be afternoon into evening, kind of.
Depends on the weather.
It's very
game
much weather
days.
dependent, yeah, very much. But those two are by far our busiest days.
All right, so how often do you find your parking lot is packed at capacity and people have to back out all weird?
Maybe once or twice a month, if we're lucky.
So you need the perfect storm.
Back Tuesday night.
Yeah, Tuesday night, is that, what's Tuesday night?
No, it was Tuesday night.
Yeah,
This past Tuesday night.
Is it like-
The election night,
Oh.
they had a whole bunch of people there. It was
We do get the occasional,
massively packed.
yeah, occasional, event like that that just kind of sneaks up on us. We had a really popular run club event one night because it was sponsored by, I don't know, one of the run companies, so. But yeah, it's once or twice a month maybe.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think you count the Shamrock at all.
I agree.
I mean, there's no date, there's no anything, there's no, you're asking for a lot. You look at the overhead, I don't understand where the parking is even available from a Shamrock perspective. I think signage would be needed, there'd be a whole bunch of other things. I think we grant a divergence for parking, if we can get the right number in there. I don't, if you want to have a side agreement outside of this, I don't think we need
Which
to
we would
codify-
encourage, but.
That- You absolutely should
Right.
do it. Absolutely should do it and figure that out with them, but I think it stays out of this process.
If something happens,
Um,
and this is part of this
Yeah,
agreement.
I mean, there's no beginning date, there's no end date, there's no signing date, there's no liability, there's no anything.
Okay.
So, yeah, I would not be in favor of that right now. All right, got a bunch of string lights up there. Is anything else going overhead?
Nope.
Not gonna build a pergola, you're not gonna build another structure. You got 2 tents, no more tents than that.
Nope, pretty big expenditure to get Antonio's up and running, so we don't have a whole lot of cash flow.
Okay, how about trash? You got 1 on the one drawing, there seems to be 2 on this one, and we're gonna move them. What do we have right now?
It is two. It is
It's two.
accurate to that.
It is
One is, yeah, one's recycling and one's regular refuse.
Okay, and then you've kind of thought about that on the number of polls that's gonna happen with Antonio's and with disposable things?
I will now.
Okay. Cardboard, a lot more other stuff.
Yeah, we were considering getting rid of the
compost.
cardboard one too, so maybe not getting rid of that one now.
No, well, and compost and other stuff, so.
Yeah.
All right, if we take, so are we in agreement, we're not gonna do the Shamrock agreement as a part of this?
We can do it on the side.
Out, okay.
Yes.
All right, so, okay, so I don't have to ask that. There was a email chain about a potential path to the to Buckeye.
Yeah, we
That-
still have ideas about it. We haven't discussed with Buckeye Gymnastics yet.
Okay.
But that's on the right side of the screen there
Yep.
behind, so.
Aren't they building a storage?
Yeah, there's a huge thing out, but it's on the side of that.
Oh, okay.
Their back of their parking lot goes directly to
Directly.
the back of his place.
Yes.
Right, so if that were, then we're talking about lights and paths and other things that you're gonna come back to him for.
Yep.
The path wouldn't if they put an informal path there, not something that would terribly concern me, but if they want to light it, which they
It'd be a
probably
light.
would from a liability standpoint, I'd want to see the light and we'd try to get something in there that was, if it's not covered by code, at least something that's not going to be obnoxious.
Okay. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
chime in on Matt's comment about parking. I think just what you've got on the drawing, yea or nay, you gotta figure out the right number, and then the wording just seemed a little, in the text, just didn't seem to match. It just didn't work. So I would take a hard look at what you were gonna put in here from a wording perspective on the parking requirements. And especially if we take out the agreement for off-site parking, now we need to pull that out of the text.
Yeah, so at the very least, the text would need to be modified.
Text needs to be
Take that
modified.
out and make sure the math is all still
For that.
accurate.
So, or just straw-wise, poll-wise, because you need to come back with something else. But how are we feeling right now if we talk about doing a divergence?
So we're just gonna stick with the 44 and have them update the text for the parking spaces, or like the calculation at least? How much workers would it be, like, how many people work in the brewery itself?
Work?
I mean, like for your space, it's just for the calculation.
I believe we had 3. I think it's
2 extra for Antonios, I'm guessing.
Say total is 6, right?
Well, 5 if there's only 2 for Antonios and 3 for the brewing. Or it's 3 and 3.
6 is probably good.
6 is
Good
probably the right
Three-
number.
3 and 3.
I would, yeah. So 6 for workers
Yeah.
on 6 spaces, the rest of the space, the rest of the parking for patrons.
I personally would also add on the plan a little wording of where your bike rack is, but
Okay. Add the
Bike
bike
rack.
rack.
Okay.
You can.
I mean, if a lot of people use it, if you
Yeah.
say so.
I don't think any of us have heartache over any of this stuff, so.
It all matches.
I think we modify that. All right, Joe, and then is there anything else from the tech memo or the summary that he had that were questions?
My only question, were you ever able to talk to the building department about that outdoor
Yes.
occupancy?
Yeah, so I just started, I submitted yesterday. I'm working back and forth with Rhonda Penrod from the
Yeah.
Department of Building Safety. Health and Safety. Yeah, so I am working with her.
Yeah, because obviously, no matter what we sign off, if the building department says they can't have that many people back there, they're not gonna be allowed to do it. So I was hoping we would hopefully we'll be able to maybe get that answer. So we can, because if they've got, if the building department says, no, you can't have that many people, and they've got to make a change, we would like to see that change before we.
So what's the
build that.
limit in place right now?
I think they're at, what did I say in the memo? Outdoor, was it 51? Is that what I had? Yeah, I want to say it's 51.
The building department believes that 51 occupancy max
For the
entire-
outdoor area only.
But the outdoor was 30, right, 30-something?
Sorry,
60.
I'm trying to find in the memo. I had it all written down.
Yeah, I believe that the
60 on the indoor,
What was-
92 on the outside.
What's your occupancy permit allow you?
inside.
Okay, I don't know, the 60 number must have come from something else. Oh, well,
We showed, we, like we had a drawing at one point, and we actually showed 60 seats.
oh, that must be where the 60 number comes from. But
Pretty sure.
obviously occupancy is more than just seats. So, and there's a whole
Yes.
formula that they go through that,
We, at the time, we had no idea. what we were
Space
doing.
But is that
and exits
occupancy
and-
based off of what use? Is it based off a restaurant?
that's based off of a fire code thing. It's not even, it's not a zoning item. It's,
okay.
it's the occupancy
No-
as far as
no
the fire
use.
department.
Square
It's sort of
footage-
like, it's like
square
that number
footage,
right
number of
there.
doors,
Got it.
type of construction.
We had to
Sprinkler,
actually,
non-sprinkler, it is.
we actually had to lower that number here on the wall because it said like 115, but that was assuming there was no tables, no chairs, and everyone was standing in here.
Okay.
The fire code accounts for all of that. I've seen the spreadsheet, the
Okay.
fire marshal sent it to me. You have to plug in all these figures and it does all this math and crunches the number out. So we ran that number based on what this room is usually set up as, and it went from 115 down to 80. So I'm not surprised to hear that, yeah, there's the delta between the seats and
You have
the,
a sign inside that says 99.
Yeah, actually, technically, we have in 2 different spaces. We have, I believe it's 80 in our main space, and then we have a front room that's 12, so yeah. it doesn't even add up to 99 at this point, but yeah, our building, approved drawings say that occupancy is up to 99, so. Approved up to 99, yeah, because of the fire code stuff that we.
But our concern has always been the outdoor area, because
Right.
it's the additional seating.
Are we thinking about a continuance, or are we gonna do this all tonight and
No,
rephrase it?
we're gonna continue this.
Okay, yeah.
We're gonna ask for you to revise drawing, text, everything else, get the agreement out, ask for the divergence. We'll come back in a month. We'll go through, we'll answer any other questions. We'll do the divergence review and approval, and then we'll go through the other piece. Am I missing anything, Mr. Schaefer?
No, I know the math probably needs cleaned up
Yes.
a little bit. Is there a number, in terms of the divergence, though, are you comfortable with sort of what they're showing here, just knowing that the numbers just need to get cleaned up?
Make them match
I
my
don't think we
parking
can fit any more than 44 parking spaces on this lot.
I mean, except if you dig those walls out, but I mean, that's a
Right.
whole undertaking.
Yeah, you wouldn't want them back there anyway, they'd be,
Yeah, I mean, you still gotta have the, you know, you have to be able to back in, you know, it's like
No,
a
no,
T,
yeah.
you know, like the,
Even then, you can get maybe 4 extra, and that would be.
yeah.
so I know 44 is, I just meant in terms of, are you okay with the delta between 44 and what they're proposing? In terms of the number of people.
And realistically,
So what is the, what is the,
both of
Are we
those
allowed to say that right
locations.
now?
Well, I just don't want them
Will
to
that
revise
ever
the plans
change?
and then come back next month and be
Something
like,
will come
well, you gave us the
inside.
divergence, but I actually don't like what you're asking.
Gotcha.
So I just want to, I'm not asking you to vote necessarily, I just want to get a sort of temperature of,
This in general, yes.
just don't want to have two conversations going on at once.
Sorry.
Especially for the audio. Okay. So what's the number that you just figured out?
Well, the number of parking spaces is 44.
What's the number needed? Because you just went through the whole thing.
Right, it would be,
well, I can give you,
there would be 88 outdoor occupancy.
Right?
You add that plus the 60, so that's 148.
Yes.
Divide that by 3, and then add 6.
Add
So
6.
148 divided by 3, rounded up.
56, right?
I'll just put the calculator out.
Oh, 49.
It's 50. Gotcha, so it's 50 plus 6, so 56 would be
56.
required.
And we're gonna, 44 on site. So we're looking at a 12 diversions.
and I guess that was the question I was trying to ask was,
Yes.
Yeah.
is that the deficit in
I
terms
think-
of when they revise the materials?
I support that.
It's 12.
Okay. Like I,
But
like I was.
you run the math again and make sure.
Yeah, I will.
Once you get everything done.
I just wanted to make sure, like I said, I didn't want him to do all that work, come back and have then someone say, well, thank you for asking the divergence, but now I actually don't like the.
I have no heartache. You good? Good? No heartache with that? Good, all right. So in conceptual theory, we are good with that. Okay, all right. What other questions do you have?
I mean, I'm kind of dependent upon Joe to give me a good summary of all these things, since I didn't write it all down, but.
I
yeah.
have removed the agreement, add the rack to the drawing, update the math, and that you're okay with the reduction from 56, again, I'll rerun those numbers, to 44.
Since you've been in operation for so long now, is there anything else that you wish you would have done differently at this point? Or do we need to even consider now, so we're not rehashing this again?
It's been a whirlwind. Yeah, I mean, we never would have expected this kind of, support, so, you know, our, initial estimates were kind of blown out of the water, which is more or less why we're kind of in this situation that we're in now, where we need this more parking, or need this divergence, so, no, and, yeah, and we can make all these changes. A lot of, you know, the questions that you guys have had, I'm gonna have better answers for you in a month, you know, when we come back and make sure that this thing's all buttoned up, but, yeah, especially as it pertains to Antonio's and how everything's gonna seamlessly, kind of fit in.
Good. All right, anybody got any other questions? All right, so dates, so Sebastian, read stuff. What's our dates, Joe? Or
That would be December 8th. Does that work on your end?
Now the,
Materials due by when?
We have it as November, a week from today.
So that's the 17th.
And I can take them a couple days later if they need a couple extra days.
What do you need, Dan?
I can,
Very short review, so.
yeah, I don't have a ton to do. Yeah, I can do it. I can get it in a week.
Okay, by 12/17 or 11/17?
11/17 for 12/8.
I move to continue the public hearing for the subject final development plan amendment application known as ZZ case number 2025-02 until December 8th at 7 PM in the Genoa Township Hall. Additional or revised materials will be due to the Genoa Township Development and Zoning Department by November 17 at 4 PM.
I second.
Discussion? Roll.
Roll call, Mr. Bernert,
Yes.
Mr. Graver,
Yes.
Mr. James,
Aye.
Mr. Teichman,
Yes.
Mr. Leff.
Yes. All right, continued until then. Yeah, thank you very much. All right. And then. We're all the way to there. Other business, Joe.
Nothing official. I did want to let you know, in case you don't pay attention to the trustees' meetings regularly, we did hire a new deputy zoning inspector. He starts a week from today. His name is Nathan Baker. He's a lifelong Westerville resident. He doesn't have zoning enforcement experience, but he's worked in the public sector before. He's got a lot of strong customer service skills and experience. And as I was telling the board last Thursday, when they made the motion, that to me, working in the public sector and being able to talk to people and work the customer service angle is probably almost the most important things I was looking for. I half jokingly, half seriously said, well, with zoning, it's written down in the book what the rules are. So it's an open book test. You can always just open the book and see what the regulations are, and if we've crafted it the right way, they should be relatively easy to understand. So, there's a lot of the mindset teaching and procedural things that he'll have to learn, but his public sector experience was for Westerville City School District. And, the schools aren't exactly, simple places to be at. There's a lot of moving parts there. He worked in the office there at, I believe it was Central High School. So, a complex environment. So I'm confident that he's going to be able to come in and learn and be a good fit for us in terms of both the skills and the culture of Genoa Township.
That's great to hear. Good. Okay. Anything else upcoming? Anything on the docket list for next month?
I'm trying to think. We'll see Mira Luna at some point. I know they're doing the sewer, the sanitary line work right now through the park and through Freeman Farm. That's underway right now. So I will not be, I did remind Mr. Olin about a month or two ago. I said, just remember, you do have to come back and get final zoning approval for that. So that's on their radar. But in terms of other applications, Paul, can you think of anyone we've talked to lately? Nope, I can't either. So,
Looks like site prep is going on behind public storage.
yep. Yeah, we issued that permit a while ago, and then they had to come back and do a revision because of the stormwater, but we got that all ironed out. Mr. Olin also told me they do still plan on building the two office buildings adjacent to this site. I just don't think it's a high priority item for them, but I do think they still intend to do it. Olive Branch is slowly but surely making progress out there. They had
Driveway's gravelled.
yeah, it was, they ran into some roadblocks that weren't, of their making entirely. So I don't fault Mindy for any of that.
A
I
lot of
think,
electrical work going on for the.
yeah, a lot of the utility work you see is prepping for the roundabout down the street. Not this one. This one's been put on hold indefinitely, as last I heard. And the ditch project hasn't started yet. I guess they hit a sort of a hiccup there too, the Franklin ditch one I had emailed some of you about. I still think they want to go forward, but I think when they did it, they didn't account for the Olive Branch site changing what it was, because those processes take so many years. When they initially did all the work, it was a completely different site and different layout, so I think they're having to go back now and look at some of that. And just making sure it's all still gonna function the way they need it to, so.
Okay.
Just rolling along.
All right, anybody got anything else? All right, next meeting, December 8th, here in the Township Hall.
I move to adjourn the meeting at 8 PM.
I second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting